Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. The Fusion, its release was delayed a bit today, fairly late in the day when we're diving into this. And my goodness, this is quite an intimidating one, isn't it? Well, I'm going to be breaking it all down for you in today's video, so never fear. And yeah, if you like this video, if you find this helpful, hopefully you will, because this is so nasty. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. I don't know, all that good stuff that, you know, whatever you do in YouTube videos, that's what you want to do. But, like if we compare, for example, if we compare it to the last fusion, a fragment as it were, walking Tomb Drang, you can see how much easier it was for him. And you go, okay, I need to get 100 fragments. These are the things, and I can skip where I want to skip. Even like the previous more traditional fusion we had with Helicath, again, it's not that bad. You're going in, you just need to grab enough llama burrs. You can keep track of how many llama burrs you have. There is even an extra epic up for grabs in Summon Rush, so you could fuse 4 versions of the epic and get a 5th one as well if you did everything here. Straightforward enough, a little bit of redundancy there. We come across Lonatharil, and this is, I will say, significantly more intimidating. There's also a big question, a very big question, and you can see this stuff is live in game as well, as to whether or not he's worth it. Actually, I haven't seen this, I didn't see this tournament pop in game. Take a quick little look and just see, like, are they, because one of the things that also makes these difficult is how many points they're going to require, which is never quite certain. Seems pretty standard, right? Seems pretty standard, so there we go. I would definitely say this as well, Lonatharil, I have been pretty underwhelmed by him. I've not been impressed with my testing. I feel like he's very much a B-tier champion. He's got an okay AoE shield. It's certainly not the best shield in the game. It's okay. He has an ally attack with all allies joining in, so your whole team joins in. It's a decent move, but nothing about him is wowing me. Like he's gonna certainly help you at Scarab Boss, that's for sure, but there's quite a few champions that can help you at Scarab Boss. It's up to you in terms of your account, but I feel like there's a pretty big opportunity cost to building and using this guy. Not only doing this event, which is going to be very difficult, I'll jump back to MTG Jedi in a second, but you're also going to need a lot of legendary books to really make him work. 10 legendary books, a really challenging event. You're going to need a lot of shards. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not 100% confident in recommending this. I'll be honest with you. I've been a little bit frazzled. I've got some stuff going on in real life, so I'm a little bit frazzled this week. My mind's not fully clicked in this week. But if I was to ever recommend skipping a fusion, I think it'd be this one. Like, I have zero excitement for him. I think this is one that you probably skip. Now, that being said, MTG Jedi, this is one thing that Lonatharil can certainly do. I was close to having this team working myself. I got it slightly off though. But MTG Jedi, again, huge credit to MTG Jedi, and some credit to Lonatharil here. He actually built a team for the hard version of Scarab, the hardest version of Scarab King in Doom Tower, and he found that Lonatharil actually sped up his run and made it pretty decent. So there's some value for that. He might be part of some of the faster teams, like the ally attack is good with himself and champions like Vlad with Destroy Max HP A1s, with Allure for turn meter. So there's some value there. At the same time, though, for the effort you're going to need to get him, I don't know if it's really worth it. And there are plenty of champions that can solo it just as fast. So I don't know. I'm really unconvinced that he's worthwhile. Right, so I don't even know if you want to go for this, and let me show you how it worked. It's good to at least know how these events work, because we're going to probably see one like this in the future, and these are by far the hardest. So let's take a look, and let's do it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to break this down in a couple of different ways. First of all, let me show you how you would get each epic individually, okay? So for each epic, they're going to show up in these different events. There are 130 fragments available. However, 15 of those fragments are from winning tournaments. If you are free to play, if you are a low spender, winning tournaments is extremely difficult. I mean, if you're going up against someone that's buying packs and has those extra resources, how do you win? It's extremely difficult. So that's a big word of warning. I always recommend to not expect to win these, but that being said, as we're going to see when we look at all of these epics, with 100 and yeah, basically that means there's 115 fragments available. You're going to be forced pretty much for most of them to get the 115 fragments. There's going to be very little that you can actually skip. In fact, basically nothing, almost nothing that you can skip. Let me show you what I mean, and then it's going to become more clear. So for Carlinia, these are the events, as you can see, where you're going to be getting Carlinia. So she's in Dungeon Divers 1, 15 fragments, Champion Chase for 20, Champion Training, the first reward for 20, Summon Rush, the first reward, 25, 15 in Dungeon Divers 3, and then 20 in Fire Knight Tournament V. I'm not sure what a Tournament V is. It's a fun typo, it's what it is. But, okay, some pretty straightforward. You can see I've actually marked this one already. If I was to skip any 15 fragments, you just skip Dungeon Divers 1. And again, this is going to be, I think, pretty early on in the event. It's probably live in the game right now. You can go check. It's probably going to be really easy to get those 15 fragments. But spoiler warning, I think Yelagirna is absolutely terrible. And you could just go farm like Minotaur, go farm some masteries or something, and just skip this entirely. You don't need those 15 fragments. And that's the 15 you're going to miss and grab all the rest. I would not skip this 15, or at least I don't even know if you can skip this 15. Because this Dungeon Divers overlaps with Fire Knight. So if you're going for Carlinia here, I think you'll pretty much get these 15 fragments as you get the 20 for Fire Knight. I don't think there's a way not to get them. Or at least, you know, it's going to require a couple of extra runs. I don't think it's going to need any extra runs. So again, the only 15 I think you can actually skip are over here. Now, the big downside with this champion is, well, Summon Rush, Champion Chase. She is involved in both of the shard events. Champion Chase is going to be 2x Sacreds, and then Summon Rush, of course, the easiest way to complete Summon Rush is with Sacred Shards. This is pure speculation at this point. Again, the usual, you can check out my what's required for a fusion video, where I give you a whole guide on this. The usual numbers, I would say, you would expect 3 Sacreds worth, about 1750 points for Carlinia, and then about 3,500 points for Wuji's fragments here, which is roughly 7 Sacred Shards worth. You can also do this with Void Shards, but Sacred Shards and filling it up with Mystery Shards, your green shards, is typically the most efficient use of your resources. So that's pretty intense, right? It's going to be probably fairly easy to get the 20 from Champion Chase. You know, for most players, pulling Sacred Shards in 2x Sacred events is a really great way to spend those Sacred Shards. Really, really good. So no real problem getting that. She's the easier reward. So there's a good chance you're going to pick, most players will be picking these up anyway, but you will need to probably preserve some Sacred Shards for that Summon Rush if you want to get her. So that becomes quite tricky. Carlinia, is she worth going for as a solo champion? I'm not sure. I actually feel like with all of these epics I feel are designed as sort of intro epics to get into Hydra. She's got actually a decent chance to place HP burn on her A1. That's really nice. Does actually really good damage. Helps you get through Poison Cloud, or like you need to get the burn on and then you can hit through Poison Cloud if they were already burned. She does have an AoE decrease attack. Again, helpful. She does have an reduce the duration of all debuffs on all allies. That's reducing the poisons. The small little strengthen is going to help you stay alive. It can't be stolen, so that's kind of nifty. And it stops the Head of Suffering from putting weaken on you. He puts weaken on anyone that doesn't have strengthen. And yeah, then she can also decrease the duration of random buffs on the enemy. She's got good, really good base stats actually. So I think, you know, she's designed really as an intro epic for Hydra, but I feel like with these summon events both being involved, it becomes fairly tricky. Let's look at Yelagirna next. And let me tell you off the bat, I think Yelagirna is absolutely rubbish. I think she's terrible. I don't know, maybe someone else will test her and let us know. But as far as I'm concerned, she's not even worth testing. She just looks completely garbage. She's much harder to get. So 20 fragments at the other side of Dungeon Divers. That's going to be somewhat intense. To get those fragments, you're definitely going to want to be grinding out probably the Spider Tournament and then a good bit of the Champion Training as well. She's the first part of Champion Training. Classic Arena is pretty easy. Dragon Tournament then is on its own. You might have some of it overlap with some of Dungeon Divers too, but that's not a huge priority really. You just get it done during the super raids, get it done nice and simple. Artifact Enhancement 2, save up your silver and do it there. And then again, this one's quite tricky. She's the last reward in Dungeon Divers 3. So I feel like she's, on the whole, being the latter reward for 2 Dungeon Divers events. Dungeon Diver events are the harder events, in my opinion. I think that is pretty punishing. I think that's pretty difficult. So yeah, I think she's hard to get. And I think this champion is just straight up bad. I think you get her to fuse the legendary or you don't bother. Increase attack if she kills an enemy. She does revive an ally whenever she kills an enemy, but you've got Shaman for free when you start the game in Orcs, and there's much better Orcs. She does have a big, always critical A3 here, but the effects aren't very useful. You're probably going to be building her with crit anyway because you want her to actually kill enemies, so she's going to need crit. She does have AoE decrease attack. That's okay. But again, like, you know, outside of Orc Faction Wars, who really needs an AoE decrease attack? There's so many more better champions because she is built to be a damage dealer, but she's not very good damage. She's just bad. She's just bad, honestly. This champion sucks. Don't go for this champion alone. It's not worth that hassle at all. Absolutely not. She's just terrible. Honest thoughts. And if you want to skip anything, like where do you skip 15 fragments? The only place you can skip 15 is Classic Arena 1. Guess what? Classic Arena is really easy. It's really easy to get those fragments. Either, well, I mean, okay, if you're in bronze, it's going to be hard. And if you're in silver, it might require some work. But Classic Arena is one of the easiest events every time in these fusions. You just use your arena tokens every day and you're done. That's mostly it. So, yeah, gosh, this is just, that one's pretty painful. Drives me nuts. Now, Anchorite, I think, is actually a really good champion. YST, I did a collaboration on his channel. We looked at Anchorite and Clan Boss. It was very impressive, actually. And I think he's going to be a good champ for Hydra as well. I think he's actually fairly solid. He is coming in. He has an AoE A1 that does some healing. Quite nice for the healing, and AoE War Master procs for Faction Wars, Doom Tower, Hydra. He does have a buff extension with also a little mini cleanse. Again, a great move. And then he's got a full heal, single target full heal, crit rate, crit damage on your team. I think this is difficult to use in Hydra because you definitely don't want that crit rate stolen. It's extremely bad if crit rate gets stolen, one of the worst buffs to be stolen. But it's going to really help you build specific teams, like in Clan Boss, that only have 70% crit rate, and he cranks them up the rest of the way. So very solid champion, actually. We look at the events for him. Spider Tournament, again, really not that bad. I mean, you're just going to be doing your Spider Tournament. He is the second reward of Champion Training. That's going to be fairly difficult. Artifact Enhancement 1. If you're doing Spider, you're going to get lots of silver, so that should be totally fine. He's the first reward in Dungeon Divers 2, although this does stand alone. Like, you might farm a bit of Dragon, but again, for Yelagirna fragments, if you're going for Anchorite alone, not that valuable. Classic Arena 2 is kind of free. He's the second reward for Champion Training. Again, not too bad. It's going to require some effort, but nothing too intense. And that's it. So, where do you skip the 15 fragments? Again, the only place you can skip 15 is Classic Arena Takedown 2, which is just a super easy event. So, I don't know. Like, it's... What are you going to do, right? You're just going to get all the... If you're going for him, you're just going to get all the fragments, I think, no matter what. And that's just the way it is. So, yeah. Finally, then, we've got Wuji. I think Wuji is actually really solid. Obviously, you know, you need to be careful. You need to build a team that's going to give her some shielding or ally protection to keep her alive. But she's an absolute monster in Hydra. Again, people didn't watch the full video. I got some comments of people clearly didn't watch the full video, and they missed the part where I said you can build her with less damage and give her, you know, flat HP rings and necklace and all the rest to make her tankier. But you can watch the video on her. You can see what she does, tanking the Head of Mischief and firing off all those AoE counterattacks. It can really add up to a ton of damage while also denying the Head of Mischief, providing weaken, providing a bit of block buffs. So she's a solid champion, I think, but she is very difficult to get. Extremely difficult to get. She is the second reward of Champion Chase. She is the second reward in Summon Rush as well. Ouch. That's a ton of Sacred Charts. Like, that's at least 7, and then even more over here. Like, this is just crazy. She's the final reward of Champion Training, the final reward of Dungeon Divers 2. Ice Golem Torment as well, the one people like to skip, and then Artifact Enhancement. Good news. The only good news here really is that, well, you can easily choose. You can pick your poison. You could skip the second Dungeon Divers reward, or you could skip the final Champion Training reward. I'd probably recommend skipping the Dungeon Divers one, actually. I think I'd skip Dungeon Divers, because Dungeon Divers is kind of a pain in the butt to do. Yeah, and like, I don't know. I definitely consider skipping Dungeon Divers and just getting the... Yeah. and not bothering. Champion training is obviously going to be a huge grind, but there's typically, you know, like a legendary skill tome at the top of champion training. So it's actually a good tournament. If ever there's a tournament to go all out for and to grind it out, champion training gives really good return on investment with the legendary skill tomes. So I think that's more worthwhile, but you could pick your poison, skip either one. But yeah, I think she's incredibly difficult to get. In terms of sacred shards, you're going to need a ton, I think. Most like we'll see tomorrow, I suppose. You'll see tomorrow. You can make your decision. You're going to need a lot to get her here. You're going to need a lot to get her over here as well. Most likely. I think this is incredibly punishing. You're really hoping that you crack your first sacred shard. You crack a sacred shard for fun in the 2x event tomorrow, and a Wuji walks out. Then you're going, oh, hey, cool. You know, and you're good. But this is like if you're going for Wuji alone, honestly, just wait to pull her in a normal situation. I don't see why someone would go to this amount of work for a Wuji. It just doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, that's honestly, they're my honest thoughts. We put all this stuff together, and how does this event look overall? I think that this looks incredibly punishing. Incredibly punishing. Again, the big issues here, I think Summon Rush, Champion Chase, this is incredibly hard. I think the epics are actually reasonably cool. This is the bummer. I think the epics are quite cool, but their method of acquisition is just incredibly rough. I would recommend going for Anchorite. Tick Anchorite. I don't think it's that hard to get Anchorite. I think Anchorite is great. Get yourself an Anchorite. It's fun to collect a new champion, and I think he's good. I think he's worth it. I think you skip her. I think Wuji is too hard to get. Carlinia is a question mark. That's up to you, whether you go for her or not. Like, she's all right. She's not terrible. She's definitely an early mid-game. Early, more so. 2, maybe mid-game champion. Definitely one that you're going to replace quickly enough, I suppose. But she's not that hard to get. It's just, do you want to spend some shards in Summon Rush? So, I'd lean towards no myself. But it's more so up to you. And yeah, if you're going to go for Lonatharil, himself, this gets pretty nasty. I realized that I put those on the Wuji layer. So we've got the Champion Chase is nasty. The Summon Rush is real nasty. And again, this would be my recommendation. Make it more clearly a tick. Definitely a no for her. And a question mark here. But mostly no. If you are going to go for everything, this is going to be one hell of a fusion. I think this is one of the most difficult fusions we've had. And hilariously, I think Lonatharil is really bad. I don't really understand what's happened here, to be honest. And I strongly suspect that everyone is going to skip this one. It's my strong suspicion. What I've done here as well, this is basically where your energy is going to go for in terms of your energy expenditure. I think this is fairly straightforward. So starting over here, Spider Tournament, just get in, get working on it with Dungeon Divers as well. They overlap, and just get your Spider Tournament and Dungeon Divers done. When you're done with Spider Dungeon Divers, flip on over to Champion Training. That's basically what this means. Do Spider till you're done with Dungeon Divers, then come over to Champion Training. Then you're just going to work on Champion Training until you're done, then jump over to Dragon, and there's really no rush to get to Dragon, okay? Get to Dragon when you want to. It's not overlapping much. It's going to overlap a tiny bit of Dungeon Divers too, but I really would not be stressing that. Don't leave it to the end. Just get it done and out of the way. You're going to be fine. Dungeon Divers 2 comes up. Start off with some Champion Training. Again, be grinding in campaign for this, so at least you're double dipping. Then jump over to Ice Golem as soon as you can and blitz through the Ice Golem while it's overlapping that Dungeon Divers 2 to finish off Dungeon Divers 2. Then come back and finish off Champion Training at your leisure. And then finally going over to Fire Knight as soon as it's up, which overlaps with Dungeon Divers 3. And that's pretty much what you're going to do. I actually think that the path through this event in terms of which events to do when, I think is actually pretty straightforward. There's no major tricks right here, to be honest. It's pretty straightforward, but what's tricky about this is not the path through, but rather the events themselves and how this fragment fusion works. Yeah, like I said, I think this fusion sucks on basically every level. I think it's extremely punishing. I think it's extremely difficult. It's extremely unintuitive, extremely hard to work out, extremely underwhelming. Legendary, just really underwhelming. Anchorite, though, Anchorite's pretty cool. And I'm going to hope to pull a Wuji at some point myself. I kind of talked myself into skipping this during this video. I probably will. Check out my freaking refer. If you got a PC, you know what you're better off doing? Spend the 2 weeks just grinding like 3 alt accounts for these 2 weeks, just casually grinding on 3 alt accounts to build up your the new referral thing. Check out my guide on how to do that, and maybe grab Anchorite if you got some time. You're better off just doing this. Like literally, Cronam is 10 times as good as Lonatharil. It's not even funny. So, and you get a bunch of sacreds on the way. Instead of spending a bunch of sacreds that you don't want to, you're going to walk away. If you do this with like 7 more, plus, 6 more void shards, bunch of epic tomes. This is so much more worth your time in the next couple of weeks. And this is a ridiculous grind. Don't get me wrong. People are going to misquote me here. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous. But at least the rewards for this are fantastic. It's a ridiculous grind, but great rewards. This fusion is shocking. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this shit show, and I will see you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.